The Life and Death of Elisa Lam, a deep dive into the mystery. Elisa Lam was born on April 30th, 1991, to immigrant parents who had moved from Hong Kong to Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Her parents, like many others who emigrated, sought a better life for their children, believing that North America could provide opportunities and stability that Hong Kong, at the time, could not. The Lams eventually established a small restaurant, a cornerstone of their livelihood, in Vancouver. Despite the rigors of running a business, they always ensured that Elisa and her sister had access to education and were involved in the community. Elisa was the product of a multicultural upbringing, a blend of Eastern and Western ideals. Growing up in Vancouver, a city known for its diversity and liberal thinking, Elisa was exposed to a range of experiences. She was a bright, creative child who excelled in school. However, beneath her outward appearance of success and happiness lurked the weight of mental illness. Throughout her teenage years, Elisa was plagued by depression and bipolar disorder, conditions that would deeply affect the trajectory of her life. As she entered young adulthood, Elisa became more open about her struggles, particularly through her presence on social media. Elisa kept a blog on Tumblr called Nouvelle Nouveau, where she expressed her thoughts, emotions, and often discussed her mental health battles. The blog became a digital diary, a window into her mind where she was raw, vulnerable, and poetic in her musings. She often posted about the challenges she faced living with bipolar disorder and the profound sense of loneliness that seemed to envelop her. Despite her personal struggles, Elisa remained determined to make the most of her life. She was an adventurous spirit, full of curiosity about the world beyond her hometown. In early 2013, Elisa decided to take a solo trip to California. It was to be a vacation, a chance to explore, experience life, and perhaps find some solace away from her daily challenges. This decision, seemingly ordinary for many young people, would become one of the most tragic journeys of modern times. Elisa's trip to California, a fresh start turned tragic. On January 26, 2013, Elisa arrived in Los Angeles, the city of dreams, a sprawling metropolis known for its sunshine, palm trees, and Hollywood glamour. For a young woman from Vancouver, it was an exciting destination. Her first few days in the city were relatively normal. Elisa visited tourist spots, such as the San Diego Zoo, and frequently updated her Tumblr blog. She expressed excitement, sharing her thoughts and photos, seemingly enjoying the experiences that the city had to offer. On January 28th, she checked into the infamous Cecil Hotel, a historic building located in downtown Los Angeles. Once a symbol of opulence in the 1920s, the hotel had since fallen into disrepair and gained notoriety for its association with crime and death. Known as a place where transients, drug addicts, and low-income residents mingled with tourists, the Cecil had a long, dark history. It was the place where notorious serial killers like Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, had once stayed, and where multiple suicides had occurred. Some claimed that the hotel was cursed, haunted by the spirits of those who had met tragic ends within its walls. Elisa, unaware of the hotel's dark reputation, checked into a shared room. However, shortly after, her roommates complained to the hotel staff about her strange behavior, and she was moved to a private room. What exactly transpired between Elisa and her roommates remains unclear. Some reports suggest that Elisa was acting paranoid, while others claim she was simply withdrawn and quiet. Regardless, her behavior was concerning enough for the hotel management to relocate her. From this point, Elisa's actions became increasingly erratic. Over the next few days, she visited local bookstores and tourist spots, but her mental state appeared to deteriorate. She had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder years earlier and was on a strict regimen of medication to manage her condition. It was later revealed that she had not been taking her medications regularly during her trip, which likely contributed to her erratic behavior. The last known sighting of Elisa Lam occurred on January 31st, 2013, when surveillance footage from the Cecil Hotel captured her in the elevator. This footage would later become one of the most infamous and widely analyzed videos on the internet. In the video, Elisa appears disoriented, anxious, and frightened. She presses multiple buttons in the elevator, steps in and out of the cabin, and looks as though she is hiding from someone or something. At one point, she peeks out from the elevator, moves her arms in strange, jerky movements, and then walks away, disappearing from the frame. This video would be the last trace of her before she vanished. For several days, Elisa's family and friends, alarmed by her sudden disappearance, tried to reach her. When they could not, they reported her missing to the authorities. The Los Angeles Police Department launched a full-scale investigation, searching the hotel and the surrounding area. Flyers with Elisa's photo were distributed throughout the city, and her case received widespread media coverage. However, despite extensive efforts, no trace of her was found. The discovery of Elisa's body, a shocking twist. It wasn't until February 19, 2013, nearly 3 weeks after her disappearance, that hotel guests began to complain about issues with the water supply. Several guests reported that the water in their rooms was discolored, had a foul smell, and tasted strange. Some guests even described the water as having a dark, blackish tint. In response to these complaints, a hotel maintenance worker was sent to the roof to inspect the water tanks. What the worker discovered was nothing short of horrific. Floating inside one of the large water tanks was the body of Elisa Lam. She had been dead for days, possibly weeks. Her body was bloated and decomposing, having been submerged in the water for an extended period of time. The discovery shocked not only the hotel staff and guests, but the entire city of Los Angeles. How had a young woman ended up in such a bizarre and tragic situation? The immediate question was, how did Elisa Lam get into the water tank? The roof of the hotel was supposed to be off-limits to guests, accessible only through a locked door and an alarmed fire escape. The water tanks themselves were large, heavy, and difficult to access. The lid of the tank was typically secured, and it would have been challenging for someone of Elisa's size and strength to lift it. Yet somehow, Elisa had made her way to the roof, climbed into the tank, and drowned. The investigation unfolds, searching for answers. When the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, launched its investigation into Elisa Lam's death, the focus initially was on the circumstances leading up to her disappearance. From the moment Elisa was reported missing, there was a sense of urgency. Downtown Los Angeles, particularly the area surrounding Skid Row where the Cecil Hotel was located, was known for its high crime rate. With rampant drug use, violence, and homelessness, the LAPD feared the worst. Had Elisa Lam, a young woman traveling alone, fallen victim to foul play? Elisa had disappeared without a trace, and the police faced mounting pressure from her family, who had flown from Canada to Los Angeles to aid in the search efforts. The LAPD scoured security footage from the Cecil Hotel, interviewed staff and guests, and canvassed the surrounding neighborhoods. But the investigation soon hit a roadblock. There were no signs of Elisa in or around the hotel, and no one seemed to know what had happened to her. The discovery of the now infamous elevator footage became a central piece of the investigation. This cryptic video, showing Elisa behaving erratically, raised more questions than it answered. What was Elisa doing in the elevator? Was she trying to hide from someone, or was she hallucinating? The police analyzed the footage frame by frame, looking for any signs of another person, someone who might have been stalking or following her. However, the video yielded no clear evidence of anyone else's presence. The mystery only deepened. Despite combing through the hotel's corridors, common areas, and even the basement, the LAPD could not find any additional clues about where Elisa had gone after exiting the elevator. It was as though she had simply vanished. As the days passed, frustration grew. The search expanded to nearby alleyways, parks, and abandoned buildings, but Elisa's trail seemed to have gone cold. Her family remained hopeful, but the longer Elisa remained missing, the more the situation began to look grim. As part of their investigation, police reviewed Elisa's social media presence, particularly her Tumblr blog, Nouvelle Nouveau. Her posts revealed a young woman who had been grappling with severe mental health issues for years. Elisa had written candidly about her struggles with depression and bipolar disorder. She often described feeling overwhelmed, lost, and isolated. Some of her posts took on a melancholic, even dark tone, as she mused about the difficulty of finding peace within herself. Given Elisa's history of mental illness, investigators began to consider the possibility that her disappearance might have been related to her condition. Had she suffered a mental breakdown, wandering off somewhere alone in the city? Was it possible that she had harmed herself? These were difficult questions to confront, but they had to be considered. The police contacted Elisa's doctors back in Canada and confirmed that she had been prescribed medication for bipolar disorder. However, as the investigation would later reveal, Elisa had not been taking her medication as regularly as she should have during her trip. The discovery on the roof, a grim realization. The turning point in the investigation came on February 19, 2013. Nearly 3 weeks had passed since Elisa had last been seen, and the LAPD was no closer to finding her. It was at this point that guests at the Cecil Hotel began to complain about issues with the water supply. They reported that the water was discolored, had a strange taste, and emitted a foul odor. Some guests described the water as being nearly black in color when they turned on the taps. Responding to these complaints, a hotel maintenance worker, Santiago Lopez, was sent to inspect the water tanks on the roof of the building. What Lopez found would shock the world. As he climbed up to the top of the building and opened the lid of one of the water tanks, he discovered the decomposing body of Elisa Lam floating inside. Her clothes were found nearby, and her body was bloated from being submerged in water for such an extended period. It was a horrifying discovery. Immediately, the roof became the focus of the investigation. How had Elisa managed to get up there? Access to the roof was supposed to be restricted, with only hotel staff having the keys to the locked door that led to it. Furthermore, the fire escape was alarmed, and the water tanks themselves were large and difficult to access. Each tank stood several feet high, with heavy lids that would have been challenging for a person of Elisa's size and strength to lift on her own. The LAPD faced these puzzling questions as they began to piece together the circumstances of Elisa's death. The discovery of her body seemed to provide an answer to the question of her disappearance, but it only raised more mysteries about what had happened during her final hours. The autopsy report, searching for clues. Following the discovery of Elisa's body, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office performed an autopsy. The examination revealed that Elisa had died by drowning, and there were no signs of physical trauma, sexual assault, or foul play. Toxicology tests showed traces of her prescription medications in her system, but not at therapeutic levels. This suggested that Elisa had not been taking her medications as prescribed in the days leading up to her death, which could have contributed to her erratic behavior. The autopsy also revealed that Elisa had no illegal drugs or alcohol in her system, ruling out the possibility of intoxication. Despite these findings, the exact circumstances of her death remained unclear. The coroner's report listed the cause of death as accidental drowning, but many questions lingered. One of the most perplexing aspects of the case was how Elisa had managed to access the roof and climb into the water tank. The Cecil Hotel had strict security measures in place, including locked doors and alarms, yet Elisa had somehow bypassed these obstacles. Some speculated that Elisa had used the fire escape to reach the roof, but this theory raised further questions. If she had indeed climbed the fire escape, why had no one noticed her? And why would she have chosen to go up to the roof in the first place? The coroner's report did little to quell the growing speculation and rumors surrounding Elisa's death. The media coverage intensified, with news outlets across the world reporting on the mysterious circumstances of her disappearance and death. The public was captivated by the bizarre nature of the case, particularly the eerie elevator footage, which had by now gone viral. Theories and speculation, a case that captured the world's attention. As the investigation continued, a wave of speculation engulfed the internet. Amateur sleuths, conspiracy theorists, and true crime enthusiasts began dissecting every detail of the case, searching for answers. Elisa's death, with its inexplicable elements and chilling video footage, became the subject of numerous online forums, blogs, and YouTube videos. Everyone had a theory about what had happened to her, and some of these theories took on a life of their own. One of the most popular theories was that Elisa had been murdered. Some believed that she had been followed or abducted by someone within the hotel, possibly a hotel employee or another guest. Proponents of this theory pointed to the fact that the water tank lid was reportedly found closed when Elisa's body was discovered, which would have been difficult for her to accomplish on her own. They argued that someone must have placed her body in the tank and then closed the lid to cover up the crime. Others suggested that Elisa had been the victim of a stalker. In the months leading up to her trip, Elisa had been active on social media, where she shared details about her life and her plans to travel. Some theorized that someone had become obsessed with her online and had followed her to Los Angeles. However, there was no evidence to support this theory, and police found no indication that Elisa had been in contact with anyone suspicious before her death. A more supernatural explanation gained traction in certain corners of the internet. Given the Cecil Hotel's dark history, some speculated that Elisa's death was the result of paranormal activity. The hotel had been the site of numerous deaths and suicides over the years, and some believed that it was haunted by malevolent spirits. According to this theory, Elisa had either been possessed or influenced by these spirits, leading her to behave erratically and ultimately causing her death. While this theory may seem outlandish, it captured the imagination of those fascinated by the supernatural and the macabre. The psychological dimension, Elisa's mental health and bipolar disorder. While many theories about Elisa's death involved external forces, some investigators and experts believed that the answer lay within Elisa herself. Her struggle with bipolar disorder became a central focus of the investigation. Bipolar disorder is a complex and often misunderstood mental illness that can cause extreme mood swings, from episodes of depression to periods of mania. During manic episodes, individuals may experience heightened energy, impulsivity, and even psychosis. Elisa had been open about her diagnosis, and her blog posts revealed a young woman grappling with the challenges of living with bipolar disorder. She had written extensively about her feelings of loneliness, isolation, and despair, but she had also expressed hope for the future. Despite her openness about her mental health struggles, Elisa had always maintained a sense of agency and control over her life. However, the fact that Elisa had not been taking her medication regularly during her trip raised concerns among mental health professionals. Without the proper treatment, individuals with bipolar disorder are at risk of experiencing severe mood swings and episodes of psychosis. It was possible that Elisa had experienced a manic or psychotic episode on the night of her disappearance, leading her to behave in ways that were out of character. In this context, the elevator footage takes on new meaning. Elisa's erratic behavior in the video, pressing multiple buttons, stepping in and out of the elevator, and making strange gestures, could be indicative of a psychotic episode. She may have been experiencing delusions or hallucinations, leading her to believe that she was in danger or that someone was following her. If this were the case, her decision to go up to the roof and climb into the water tank could have been the result of disorganized thinking caused by her mental state. While this theory is perhaps the most plausible, it still leaves many unanswered questions. How did Elisa access the roof? Why did she take off her clothes before getting into the water tank? And why did no one hear or see her as she made her way through the hotel? The ongoing legacy, unsolved questions, and cultural impact. Elisa Lam's death remains one of the most perplexing and unsettling cases of the 21st century. Despite the official ruling of accidental drowning, many people continue to question the circumstances surrounding her death. The case has spawned countless documentaries, articles, podcasts, and online discussions as people around the world try to piece together the puzzle of what happened to Elisa. The Cecil Hotel, too, has become a site of morbid fascination. True crime enthusiasts, paranormal investigators, and curious tourists have flocked to the hotel to see the infamous elevator and water tanks for themselves. The hotel's management has made numerous attempts to distance the establishment from its dark past, even changing its name to Stay on Main. However, the shadow of Elisa Lam's death looms large over the hotel, and its connection to her story is unlikely to fade. For many, the most important legacy of Elisa's death is the conversation it sparked about mental health. Elisa's story has resonated with countless individuals who have experienced similar struggles with mental illness, particularly young people dealing with bipolar disorder. Her death serves as a reminder of the importance of mental health awareness, treatment, and support, as well as the tragic consequences that can result when these needs are not met. As we conclude this in-depth exploration into the mystery surrounding Elisa Lam's tragic death, it's clear that the case continues to haunt and intrigue people around the world. While many questions may never be fully answered, her story reminds us of the fragility of the human mind and the importance of mental health. If you found this video thought-provoking, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Peaceful Stories for more investigations into the world's most puzzling mysteries. Until next time, stay curious and remember, some stories are never truly over.